history, language, culture, mentality. Experts, activists, and concerned citizens' opinions on what it means to be a Belarusian. Identity.
This is Identity Project and the waves of Radio Belarus International. In it, we will try to present an understanding of the Belarusian national idea by cultural, state, civil, military, and religious agents of Belarus, as well as ordinary citizens of the country. Arsienij is at the mic for you. What role does philosophy play in identity development? Is there a national philosophy in Belarus? What names should we know? What is the Institute of Philosophy and what does it do? These questions were answered by the Deputy Director for Research at the Institute of Philosophy of the National Academy of Sciences of Belarus, Philosophy Dr. Andrej Dudčyk. In this episode, we will talk about the Institute itself, its history and functions, as well as the most relevant projects.
Identity.
Скажите, пожалуйста, о том месте, где мы сейчас находимся.
Tell us about the place we're at right now, perhaps a bit about the history of the Institute of Philosophy and its functions.
Давнюю историю. Он был создан в 1931 году, и через 2 года мы...
Our institute has a pretty long history. It was created in 1931. In 2 years, we're going to celebrate the 90th anniversary. Historically, this institution's field of research was not limited only to philosophical problems. For a long time, the institute was called the Institute of Philosophy and Law, so some legal issues from a philosophical perspective were also analyzed here. Today, it is mainly engaged in fundamental scientific activities. We regularly publish monographs on a variety of philosophical topics. We have an annual journal called Philosophical Studies. This is the only journal in the country that focuses specifically on philosophical issues. Philosophical articles, of course, are published in other journals, but along with other social and humanitarian disciplines. The Institute has graduate and doctoral studies. We have a thesis defense council. There are also regular events, roundtables, and conferences. Our institute has several large units and research centers. I can briefly name each of them. There is a center that specializes on social philosophy and philosophical anthropology. Society development issues are of interest to specialists in the first place. At the same center, there is a group of researchers who are engaged in social ecology. We have an interdisciplinary research center. Specialists there are working on the synthesis of various scientific approaches. In the modern world, science is narrowed by any kind of disciplinary framework, and in order to get fundamentally new research, it is necessary to combine the efforts of different disciplines. Colleagues from this center are doing this. By the way, they prefer to call their work not interdisciplinary but transdisciplinary research. They believe that it reflects more fully their line of work. There is a center that deals with the history of philosophy. At the moment, it focuses more on the study of the history of philosophical thought in Belarus, although other comparative historical and philosophical studies are present there. There is a center for globalization, integration, and international cooperation. In it, employees are engaged in what can be called the philosophy of international relations. They develop philosophical foundations for the Belarusian state to adequately occupy its place in the international arena and be included in the globalization processes without losing its subjectivity and national culture. We have a Knowledge and Competency Management Center which is studying what can be called modern social technologies and is trying to conduct an examination of how these technologies affect modern society and culture and how they can best be incorporated into modern Belarusian space. Finally, the Center for the Philosophy of Literature and Aesthetics has recently been created. As the name implies, specialists also work at the junction of different disciplines and try to combine the achievements of philosophy and literary research. In addition, we have a special cluster-type structure, or the Center for Fundamental and Practical Philosophy, which brings together not only the employees at the Institute, but also representatives of other educational institutions, leading universities, and departments of philosophy that exist in these universities. That is, it is a center that unites the philosophical community. One of the promising areas of philosophical activity is what is called practical philosophy. It is an attempt to bring philosophy to a wider audience, an attempt at philosophical counseling, an attempt to study philosophy with representatives of different audiences, different age groups, and so on. In addition, there is a public association, Belarusian Philosophical Society, which also unites people who are interested in philosophical knowledge. There are not only professional philosophers, but just people who are interested in it. They can join this society too. Under the aegis of the society, there is a discussion club, which resumes its work this October.
А философское консультирование это такое...
Philosophical consulting, is it some sort of philosophical psychoanalysis?
Это в чем-то похоже на работу психолога, может быть.
In a way, yes. This is somewhat similar to the work of a psychologist or psychoanalyst. On the other hand, philosophical counseling has also a rather deep history. If we recall some ancient philosophers, they too were engaged in philosophical counseling. Maybe they didn't call it like that, but the sense of their activities was close.
Возвращаясь к междисциплинарным проектам.
Are there any other transdisciplinary projects involving other institutes of the Academy of Sciences? Or are they executed only at the centers of the Institute of Philosophy?
Ну, нет, на самом деле у нас достаточно много.
In fact, we have many projects, and most are of varying degrees of interdisciplinary nature. Expert consulting in various fields is necessary. If we are to recall some completely interdisciplinary areas of research, then we should consider the ethnophilosophy project. Both philologists and historians are attached to it. We have a tradition of research in the field of bioethics. In it, we work closely with experts in the field of genetics and biology as a whole. There is a project on digital society, which is being implemented jointly with the Institute of Applied Mathematics of the Russian Academy of Sciences.
А может, поподробнее о международном сотрудничестве института?
Tell us more about the Institute's international cooperation.
Говорить вот о различных научных проектах, которые регулярно выполняются.
It is also quite productive. Various scientific projects are regularly carried out with colleagues from Russia, the UK, Germany, Romania, Moldova, and other countries. The Institute is currently participating in a major historical and philosophical project. It combines the efforts of Belarusian, Polish, and Lithuanian experts for the study of common intellectual heritage. Many philosophers who worked in our territories can be attached to different cultures because they often wrote in different languages. It is not always clear to which ethnic group they can be taken with due justification. Sometimes this leads, if not to conflicts, then at least to discussions when representatives of different countries try to pull one or another outstanding figure to their side. Although in my opinion this can be considered as a motive for cooperation. It is not necessary to split ideas or prominent people. One can instead consider them as part of a common heritage. Here one can recall the collaboration with Chinese scientists. At our institute there is a Belarusian Chinese Center for the Study of Philosophy and Culture. We have agreements with a number of Chinese research centers. Our employees travel to China for internships, and the students from China are trained here. In addition, we have long-standing scientific ties with UNESCO. Together with them, we conduct a number of events. Taking this opportunity, I would like to say a few words about the activities of the International Federation of Philosophical Societies. The Belarusian Philosophical Society is its member. Every year, it holds an International Philosophy Olympiad for school students. Unfortunately, not all schools consider philosophy as part of the school curriculum. In order to popularize philosophical knowledge, including for school students, UNESCO organizes such an Olympiad. This fall, we will select a group for participation in it. I invite all high school students, especially of the 10th and 11th grades, to take part. The point of this competition is that students must write essays in different languages, but this language should not be their native language. Say, participants from the UK or the United States of America cannot write essays in English. This is done in order to put everyone in more or less equal conditions. So if some students are interested in philosophy and in learning foreign languages, then I invite them to participate. In addition to English, there is the opportunity to write in German or French. Detailed information about the competition can be found on the websites of the Institute of Philosophy and the Faculty of Philosophy and Social Sciences of the BSU.
А вот по поводу национальных героев, вот этот проект, он, наверное, в какой-то...
This project on national heroes, does it lead to some conclusion like that it's not necessary to tag them, that this issue is not actually an issue, that their attachment to the history of two or more nations does not undermine their value?
Конечно, то есть мне кажется, что они могут иметь некоторую такую двойную идентичность.
Yes, I think that they may have some kind of double identity. This is a completely normal situation, because in the modern world we very often see that it is difficult for a person to be unequivocally and definitely attributed to a particular culture. He can be born in one country, get an education in another, live and work in a third, and so on. This situation is not new, and something similar happened in previous eras. There's nothing surprising in this.
А работников института привлекают, например...
Do the institute employees get involved as experts in, say, issues of public administration?
Регулярно к институту обращаются по тем или иным вопросам.
Yes, the institute is regularly approached in various issues because the institute performs, among others, the functions of a social and humanitarian expertise. There are a number of problems which can be solved only with the involvement of philosophical knowledge. Recent examples include advertising. Nowadays, ads are everywhere and in many different forms. Sometimes questions arise if any advertising messages violate the accepted notions of morality or the private space of citizens, and so on. Here, it seems to me, one cannot do without philosophy.
Граждан и так далее. То есть и здесь, мне кажется, без философии не обойтись.
Identity.
The first part of the conversation with Andrej Dudčyk comes to an end. Today we've talked about the Institute of Philosophy. In the second part, we'll discuss national philosophy and national idea, language, and what it means to be a Belarusian.
This week.
With each passing year, Belarus is increasingly establishing itself as an Eastern European negotiating platform and as a regional bulwark of stability and security. An external factor also played a certain role: the conflict in the eastern Ukraine. That was what gave Belarus the opportunity to become a mediator between civilizations. In 2015, the Minsk Protocol was signed with the aim of resolving the Ukrainian conflict. Signatures were put by representatives of Russia, Ukraine, the OSCE, and unrecognized Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics. Later, the UN Security Council approved the Minsk Protocol by a special resolution. Although the parties did not comply with the protocol for 4 years, on October 1st, 2019, the Steinmeier Formula was signed. It was the first small step towards the implementation of the protocol. The Minsk Dialogue Forum took place on October 7th and 8th. And within its framework, the conference European Security Stepping Back from the Brink was held. The plenary session was attended by Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko. These events once again confirm that Belarus is becoming a key negotiating platform in the region, a country that maintains neutrality in relations between East and West. We'll talk more about this in future episodes of Identity. Arsienij Anderson was with you today. See you in a week.
History, language, culture, mentality. Experts, activists, and concerned citizens' opinions on what it means to be a Belarusian. Identity.